For our millions of viewers all over the galaxy, welcome to Rudy Awakening. And today we have Dimitri. Please introduce yourself, sir.
How many people all across the galaxy watch this? This is awesome. Aliens. I'm
Yeah, it's.
Dimitri.
I think we're in the hundreds of millions now, but it's
Yeah.
it's hard to track the growth right now. It's exponential.
I never considered that. Yeah, there's definitely some aliens in on this. Well, I run LGFG Fashion House out of Estonia. We're a custom clothing company, so here I am.
Amazing. How about your full name?
Toukhcher, Dimitri Toukhcher.
Yeah, I'm worried about. I actually was specific because I was worried about saying your last name wrong. So
I've
I've
become
got.
less, I've become very unpicky about that, obviously, because there's no way to say it right, it seems.
Yeah, my last name's Westerning. I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many variations I've received.
Yeah, you should go with Rudy W. Rudy W.
Yeah, it's easy, man. So
Yeah.
Dimitri, man, thank you so much for taking the time. Dude, I wanted to get you on here. I loved meeting you at the ARC this year, the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship. And I just wanted to get to know more about you. You had incredible energy everywhere you went at ARC. There was like a band of people around you, and so of course you kind of I gravitated to you as well. And so you have a really cool story, in my opinion. You do really cool things out there in the world. Do you want to like just take a moment to like I don't know. I'd love to hear your story. Like how did you evolve, man? Where does a Dimitri? Where are you hatched? What are your parents like?
That's funny. Where am I hatched? Well, I think part of the ARC experience also was that I invited a lot of people that had shown up, and that was good because I went to the first one and it was so much fun, and the message behind it was very inspirational, meaningful for me as well. And I'm not a miss to the fact that like I grew up in Canada and you're in Canada, and what's happening in Canada is a direct consequence and symptom of some of the things that ARC is trying to combat, right? Um,
Well, we can talk about that too. What did
Well,
you see?
we get there, yeah. So
Yeah.
I was pretty passionate about the message, and so I invited my friends, and so everybody was obviously hovering because I had a friend from Florida, I had a couple from Canada, I had some friends from England, like just from all over, but nothing particularly special. I was born in Ukraine, grew up in Canada,
Yeah.
and so we emigrated out of Ukraine in '92, so we were in Kiev, and then the Soviet Union disbanded, and then we're like, okay, see you later, which is like what people kind of tend to do.
Hmm.
Um, And then I grew up in Vancouver, so like just kind of typical immigrant-y stuff, lots of Russian speaking. We were all kind of Russian kids, even though we weren't Russian. Like, whether you're from Ukraine, Russia, Lithuania, Latvia, wherever, like if you speak Russian and you're there, you're like a Russian kid, right?
Yeah.
And so, and so I grew up in Vancouver, finished all my, elementary, high school, university, everything there. And ended up in Estonia years later after I met my Estonian wife and. I guess the prospects of building a company in Estonia, I already had a company in Canada, but they seemed better because the environment was a lot more friendly to entrepreneurship.
Hmm.
And so as our company grew and the option became more and more like appealing and lucrative, let's say, to move out here.
Yeah. Estonia is like specifically like the policies of how they set that country was specifically for like tech entrepreneurship and growth, right?
I think it's just again a symptom of having a country that is small and also not, and by virtue of being small, just not really having a lot of resources to export. So they have a knowledge economy, right?
Yeah.
And the timing was like when you have a knowledge economy, you really have to be on the forefront um of change and innovation.
Hmm.
And at the time, that was like IT stuff. And the Soviets left a lot of their really good IT infrastructure here in Estonia. They had good, this is like the Nordics. You have a lot of quiet autistic types that are good at math.
Yeah.
So you have good IT infrastructure, that kind of was left behind at the time, whatever that looked like in the early '90s. And those guys did a heck of a job setting up, a country that was sort of on the forefront of change. Like they've had a paperless government for more than a quarter century now,
Yeah,
which
which
is
is
pretty.
incredible.
Voting here is done online with like an ID card you insert into your computer. Tax filing takes about 2 minutes. You just insert your chip and then you're done. Like
Wait,
everything is
so
just so much.
do you
Yeah.
have like a special card reader that is issued from the government that everyone has in their
Yes.
home?
Yes. And now you don't need it anymore because now they do it through text. Like you verify you put it in and then you get or you enter like a link and then it sends you a text message you confirm with your personal code. and then you have it's just the one that you know, and then you have your signature code. So everything is completely automated.
That's incredible. So once a year you have to vote per se. You go to your side drawer beside your bed, you pull out your chip reader, plug it into your USB port, and you
Yeah,
vote.
yeah.
That's ridiculous. That's the way it should be. That
It's
we
been
should
like that
have
for more
that.
than a quarter. I mean, dude, it was like that here 25 years ago.
I was the founder of a political party here in Canada years ago, and it was more of a technocracy party, and we kind of had the same approach. But that's an amazing way to secure things. So you could can you use is that specifically only for voting, or can you use that for polling or any other things? Like, is
I'm
there
not
more
sure. I'm not.
interaction?
I'm not sure the answer to that. I mean, there's not even a reader anymore. Now it's done by text. Like they confirm your identity because they send your phone because your card is connected to your phone number,
Yeah,
and then they send it to your phone, and then you have to like put in the code. But I use it for like if I want to enter my bank, I go in, I put my username, it sends me. It's almost like a government app, where you have like a banking app or something. We have to just like plug in a code, and it sends you a verification code kind of thing.
yeah, that's awesome.
It's like that for government, yeah.
So you're in Vancouver. You meet the perfect Estonian woman. You're like, that's it. I'm leaving the continent. How did you do anything post secondary? How did you evolve into the world of suits?
Well, I went to UBC and I spent 5 years in school in university just because I had co-op, so I had a lot of university and I had to pay for school and I got involved into like one of them direct sales company things where like you sell stuff and then you recruit your friends to sell stuff,
Yeah,
which was the style at the time. So I got into door-to-door encyclopedia sales and that was 6 years of my life. So that was a very significant experience because it was extremely hard. It was 100% commission. It was,
just to
80.
clarify, because it's worth
Yeah.
having being resaid. You survived for 6 years selling encyclopedias door to door.
I didn't survive. I thrived. I bought a house as a third year. So I went like the story is like very simple. So I was actually just thinking about it today, which is super funny. So I had a $400 1988 Toyota Corolla. It was 400. I say it was $400, but the reason I got it from my mom is because we couldn't sell it for $400. So this thing was a hunk of shit, right? Like just the crappiest. Nothing was power. It was like hydroplaning to death anytime there like was a little drizzle outside. Like this car sucked. And I was driving it to university. I was living out in Ladner, which is about 30, 40 minutes out of Vancouver. So it's like Ladner is like the Hamilton of Toronto, right? So I was living out there, going up to school, and the parking was $5 a day. And so, my parents are giving me like $5 a day for parking, and then they raised it to $5.25 a day. Okay, this is like 2002, and I'm like $5.25 a day. That was my line, between 5 and 5.20. That was my inflection point of no more parking exploitation. So I was like rollerblading to class, like 40 minutes from the highway, like where I would park my car. And somebody saw me rollerblading, like, what are you doing? I'm like, rollerblading. It's like, why? I'm like, because parking's too expensive, so I park on the highway. And I guess somebody thought that was a prelude to like somebody that was willing to work hard, or they were just looking for any excuse to recruit me into door-to-door sales. So that's how kind of it came about. And hey, we have a visitor. So, anyways, so I was doing that, and then somebody was like, "Hey, come and you can make money selling door to door." And I was like, "I guess I can." And my parents thought I was nuts, but the program was very wild. Like you leave for the whole summer, like in a caravan. You go from Vancouver to Toronto, as far away as you can in Canada, and you live like completely away from family with like two or three other roommates. It's like the army, and then you wake up every
Wait,
morning
this
at
is the
6 and you go knock.
encyclopedia grind?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So they remove you from the city, put you in a
Oh yeah.
boarding house, give you
No, no
sale.
boarding house. No, it's crazier than that. We literally show up in a city. They don't tell us where we're going. Like we have a 1 week training. We're like outside running around reciting our sales scripts. Like it's pretty wild. And then you don't know what city you're going to. So the training is done in Nashville because the company's out of Tennessee. And then they send you like, okay, your city is going to be Hamilton, and you all drive to Hamilton. And then you guys are going to Aurora. Okay, we're going to Aurora. And you guys are going to like Nepean, Ottawa. Okay, let's go there. So we just kind of get dispersed all over the country. We're Canadians from that group, so we had to go back to Canada. And then we would just show up in a city, and there was no boarding house, nothing. We're all contractors, so we go knocking on doors the first day, just asking people if they know somebody who's got a room for rent. Like this is before even like Craigslist, right? So we're like knocking on doors. Hey, I'm a student. I'm new in town. I'm here working for the summer. Do you know somebody that might have a cheap room for rent? And so we'd pay like 25 bucks a week a person, and it's just in the most horrid, you'd have. It's not only. It's like whoever is going to let students live with them for the summer is usually kind of insane.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like It's like literally because it's like in my case, I'm a guy, so I'm rooming with like three other guys. Hi, we're just like four college kids living here for the summer. Can we live in your house? Um, so I ended up doing 4 summers in Toronto, 1 summer in Ottawa, and 1 summer in Calgary. And so we were going door to door selling books. Wake up at 6 in the morning, and you can't. Usually, the oldest crew member, like that's been doing it for a while, is the one that has the keys to the house. So I
Yeah,
don't, for the first 2 years, I don't have the keys, so I can't even come home until like 9, 10 p.m. because nobody's there and it's locked.
yeah,
Um, and so we're out, we're outside from, we wake up at 6, eat breakfast from 8 o'clock until 10 o'clock at night, 8 in the morning, 10 at night. We're just outside knocking all day.
crazy.
So, but I did really well at it. Like I was able to pay my school my first summer. By the time I graduated, like I had a house that I bought as a third year student. I had about $250,000 saved up, even after I paid off my university. Like by the
Holy
time that I graduated.
smokes.
Yeah, by the time that I graduated. So it was an intense and insane experience, but I had obviously discovered a certain profundity for sales, like
Yeah,
and not just discovered, but developed because that's something that you build and grow. Like there's, tactics
yeah.
that you have to learn in negotiation. I picked up a good chunk of that. So I was in a good position when I graduated because I had an opportunity to start a company, which is what I did without borrowing money because I had enough cash at the time to start a company of the kind of nature that we are.
So here you are, natural grinder, door to door sales. You've cut your teeth on the front lines in arguably the most vicious, like door to door sales is brutal.
Yeah.
Um, how does this transition? Like you didn't just wake up one day and decide went from encyclopedia to suits, right?
Well, I woke up one day realizing that I don't want to go to the door anymore. Like I was 25 years old.
Yeah.
I was financially doing well for a 25-year-old at that time. But the status that comes with door-to-door sales is pretty negligible, right? Like you don't tell a girl you meet like, "Oh, I saw." It's like, "Oh, you have a nice outfit. Like, where do you work?" To buy a cool jacket like that. Like, "Oh, I'm a door-to-door
Yeah, you
encyclopedia
say
man."
I'm one step above a newspaper guy.
Kind of, right? No,
Yeah.
we were below because every people were happy. Like the people were happy when the newspaper guy comes in, like, oh, because some people like that. And when we show up trying to sell stuff, it's like get the dog. Um, like zero people, I think, were actually excited that a door is like, oh, finally a door-to-door sale, and you're selling encyclopedia. Oh my God, right?
Yeah.
Like nobody never got that reaction. That's so I wanted to do something that would to help me foist the skills that I had learned, which was I was able to approach, uh, you know,
Hey, just to go
interact.
just to go back to those skills
Yeah,
you've learned, and I've seen you operate it on a small level or, for what little time we've spent together. I'd say reading people. Like you open a door, you read people so quickly. I noted, like even when we were hanging out. Like is that you say like probably your biggest
100%
strength?
develop. Oh,
Yeah.
100% develop. It's like hearing music. Some people think that there's musicians that have perfect pitch, like, oh, that's an A, that's a C. It's like, no, that's years of playing those notes and hearing those notes and understanding how those notes interact. So there's patterns, right?
Yeah, like you're looking at
Um,
the
you
way
know,
somebody's walking and
yes.
speaking and moving, like everything, right?
Demeanor, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
demeanor, general disposition, what choices they make even for their haircut or their clothing, or I mean, you can tell a lot, even by the speed with which people move, right?
Mm,
Like everybody that knows money, and you probably realize this, everybody that knows money knows that wealth moves a lot slower.
mm. Slow
Like the
walk.
people make quicker decisions, but the way they physically move, they move not they don't jerk around. Wealth is very like serene in the way it moves. So
Agreed.
um I'll wait for a second until we unfreeze.
Oh,
Honey, you
there we
good?
go. We are
We're
back.
back, yeah. So anyway, so yeah, so definitely learned how to read. And by the way, and people see me like right now, you might talk to me, interact with me, like I think fast, I speak fast, I move around, great. And you think like, oh, that's a natural salesman, blah, 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 blah. It's like that's not how I act in an interaction or in a negotiation. This is just you really have to like control yourself the way that you expose yourself when you are. It's like, the way that an athlete would like play hockey with their kids is not the way they're playing when they're getting on the ice.
Well, a good salesperson is all things to all people, right? So like you go into a situation and hear me out. What I mean is you
Yeah.
you read the person and then you see if there's a fit in your own toolbox of personality per se to see if you can click with them. Do you follow me? It's
I,
just like
there's an extent of truth. Yes, when you're starting out, absolutely. Like you have to learn to adapt yourself to build rapport.
mhm.
But fundamentally, sales. like high level actual closing deals and getting money is a lot more about disagreeability than agreeability. And that's what people
Mm.
like completely don't understand because people conflate sales with customer service and they
Hmm.
are not like people think dating is the same as like, your grandparents' marriage. It's like it's not. Like hunting for a girl
Proceeding with the
to
confidence
different.
that you are the professional and you are going to be the one making the decision for them.
That's part of the combination lock. Of course,
Yeah.
we can get very granular here.
Yeah.
That's part of the combination, but it's a combination lock. And look, it's hard to describe with like here are three vertices that make you a good salesperson. It doesn't work like that.
No, no, no.
But yeah, I mean, obviously part of all overall what it is, it's communication skills. It's being able to be persuasive. It's being able to be empathetic, and it's being able to be disagreeable, yet at the same time build rapport. And it's all in one sort of in one stew, you know?
Absolutely. Let's just take a quick jaunt back here. How did you get going with your first company? And actually, I'd love to hear the story of your first company because it's incredible.
Well, that was it. So I was selling door to door. So I had a monetizable skill set. At 25 years old, like that's a good thing to have. And I didn't want to sell door to door. So it was a very rational type of an approach where I wasn't seduced into fashion thinking I'm a fashion guy. That wasn't at all. Like I liked, once I started making some money, I got some leather jackets. I felt good about myself. I understood it, changed my. So anyway, so I had a monetizable skill set. And I think if I had gone back to that time now, I would have gone in a different direction because I was just very impatient. Like I wanted to make money. That was my number. Like I want to make money, because I'm making money. I'm 25. I know I can sell. Like I looked at like some different jobs and sales at different companies. I think I scared off a couple of recruiters like pretty badly because I was insane. Like people, I would go in an interview for like some telecom company and they're like, tell us about like setting goals and how you hit them. I'm like, yeah, well, I was selling door to door. I wanted to be number one in a company of 3,000 salespeople, but that week it was a smog warning in Toronto. They said, don't go outside. It's 40 degrees Celsius with 60% humidity. I'm getting nosebleeds every day, but I'm still knocking on doors covered in blood because I want to make that sale so bad. And yeah, so I think I just scared a bunch of recruiters off interviewing for jobs because I was like, it was an insane level of commitment when you're door to door thing. Like they're talking about, tell us how you set goals and hit them. And I'm like, oh, I have a sales example of like when like it was a smog warning, it was 40 degrees Celsius outside and 60% humidity in Toronto. They're like, don't go outside. And I'm outside
Dimitri,
fighting nosebleeds all day.
what in you is driving this forward as a person? Because it's a unique, it's you get these hardcore purebred sales types like you, and they're rare. What for you personally drives you? You wake up in the morning, and what is it? You want to have that number in the bank account. You want to look in the mirror. What are you thinking?
All of the above. You're a little bit fucked in the head.
Yeah.
Like nobody that comes from a stable, I'm telling you right now, man, we know this in our company. We know, I know it's for everybody. Like nobody that comes from like a very stable, serene, comfortable upbringing is going to be good at sales,
Nobody that's
right?
come from a serene, secure upbringing is going to be good at sales.
No, because you don't have the insanity. Like there's just too much. Like you're too. If you like grew up in a lot of comfort, like there's just no way you're going to punish yourself like that. I'll tell you a funny story real quick. So when we would recruit on campus at different universities, once in a while you get like a real popular kid, like this guy, Sean. He's handsome, he's cool, he's fit, he's athletic, he's obviously very popular. Chicks love him. Everybody's like, oh, Sean's gonna sell so much, right?
Yeah.
And then you learn over the years, Sean's gonna sell dick all because the moment he gets rejected a couple of times, his entire self-perception breaks down. He goes off crying and then quits
Yeah.
because he's just not used to people receiving him with so much like immediate distrust and immediate some degree of anger, like why are you at my house? Why are you knocking on my door during dinner? You just woke up my kid. My dog is now barking. Who are you? What do you want? Like Sean is not used to being perceived that way, right? And I'm talking about again sales. I'm not talking about like what the corporate world calls sales, which is not sales.
Yeah, yeah. So the
I'm talking
ability to deal with chaos and rejection and all of that.
and probably crave it to some degree, not just deal with it, but just crave a little bit of that. Like the best salespeople, and when I say salespeople, I mean like truly persuasive, are like super toxic, like human beings, right? That are like just slight narcissism, like difficult to deal with, or generally into drama because there's like so much dopamine that happens with like the insanity that comes with that, right?
I don't disagree. Yeah, I don't disagree at all.
And so it's very easy there. So they have like the two competing avatars, right? You have the very highly conscientious people that will work and are very disciplined, and they just get crushed because they're not very persuasive.
Hmm.
And then you get the rock stars that don't know how to work. Like they're extremely toxic and persuasive, but they're very low conscientious. And
Mm.
so to get somebody that's both able to do that and has the conscientiousness to like follow through consistently, that's an outlier. Usually dealing with some imperfect balance of that.
And combine that with a little bit of the hunger that insecurity brings, right?
Yes,
And then boom,
you
off you
need that.
go.
You need that. Like you the best salespeople aren't like theoreticians sitting in a classroom like discussing ideas. The best salespeople want to go and kill.
The best, yeah, it's the kids who are 12 years old at home listening to their parents argue what they're going to feed their kids for breakfast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, I
Sure.
got
Like
you.
you need that. So anyway, so that was I'm not saying that I had a lot of that. I think my instability just came from being an immigrant and then like going like 4 or 5 different elementary schools in 3 years, like just being very comfortable with constant change because that's what you especially, like in the early 90s when you go from the Soviet Union to Canada, it's not like today. Like there was some stark differences between those two parts of the world at that time. Like that was like moving a century forward.
We have a lot in common. Like I stayed in Canada, but a lot of the same touch points on our stories. So
Hmm.
it's cool. Maybe explains our connection.
Yeah, I mean, there's something, right? So, anyways, man, that was it. That's how I got into sales,
So
and then of course looking at like what I'm gonna do after books. So I was like, well, I can sell, and I just made a list of criteria of things that are important to me, and one of those was like I want to be around people more successful than me. I wanted access. That was very important for me.
yeah,
I wanted access. I wanted something I could sell quickly, and I also had become persuasive enough to know that I could manipulate. So I wanted a physical product that I couldn't sell something, and I wanted accountability after the sale.
you wanted accountability.
After the sale. Yes, because I
Why?
become
I
persuasive.
often avoid that. Why do you want it?
Well, I mean, I just the ethical thing, right? Like I refuse to sell books to poor people because I knew that, and I say that very bluntly, to be transparent about it. Like a lot of people went to the poor neighborhoods to sell because it's an emotional sale, like selling encyclopedias and educational stuff. It's like, oh, how is your kid's education important to you? And people get very like emotionally aroused, like, oh, it's so important. We want to have a better life for our kids. I'm like, I don't want to manipulate people like that. Like, I went to the richest neighborhoods. I made a very logical and very straightforward sale about what it was that I was selling, and I knew that people there were all smarter than me because there was a lot of like profoundly. It was a lot of like bankers and doctors, like people that are a lot of white collar. I knew they were really, really smart, so I didn't feel like I was manipulating them when they made a decision to make a purchase. And
Mhm.
that's something I wanted to carry forward in this business. So suits made sense. Gave me access, gave me a quick transaction, kept me out of school another 5 years. I did not want to get any more professional designations, like 5 year university. I was done. And it gave me an opportunity to sell to people that I perceived to be more successful than me because they were, and they were wealthy, and who buys custom tailoring? Like from a tailor comes to it's the upper middle and upper class, right?
Yeah, it's wonderful. So you started, you didn't know anything about suits whatsoever. You sat down, you intentionally pick out of the plethora of options you have on this planet. I'm going to sell suits for these reasons. This is way more intentional and thought out than most chaotic entrepreneurs, eh? Like most guys are
Mm.
walking down the street and like, a ball hits them in the back of the head and they decide to sell balls going forward. But you sat down and articulated exactly what you wanted going forward. So that's
Yeah,
a really
I don't
cool.
think I have that. Like, you see, Rudy, you've probably known you're an entrepreneur forever.
Yeah,
I didn't. I was a conscientious student. Like I was a good student at school. Like I very consistent in my habits. Like I'm very predictable. I didn't have that profile at all. I just happened to figure out sales that I loved it. I loved the hunt. I loved the way it made me better, how it helped me be a better communicator, how it helped me grow, how it helped me, be interesting at parties because I had great stories. So I really treated it like some of my friends who got their CPAs or CFAs. I treated it like that, right?
but you're highly intentional with what you do, which, like you said, isn't a
Yeah,
classic necessarily. I shouldn't say this is broad strokes, but it's not the classic entrepreneurial curve.
right.
Okay, cool. So you pick suits, and what do? You go out, you source a provider, materials. How do you end up unfolding this business? Because how, like, if for people who are listening, what the scope of your business is a solid size. Like you're all over the world now, it seems, right?
Yeah.
So please,
Yeah,
yeah, let us know.
yeah, we have offices in like 26 countries or something, but it was I wasn't that well prepared. I just knew that I could sell. And so I got a magazine with some, GQ or something, and I got a home hardware order book
What do you mean
and a
a home
measuring tape
hardware order book?
because I didn't even know you can have custom order books, man. I knew nothing about starting a business. I had an order book selling door to door, so I'm like, I'll just go buy an order book. I can write down measurements and,
Oh, you
I,
mean like
I
a
read up
receipt? You
on,
bought like a carbon copy receipt book from Home Hardware.
yeah, like literally, yeah.
Yeah, incredible. Okay.
And I had a magazine with some suit pictures. I'd ordered some suit swatches online from one of those get yourself suit swaps. I didn't have a supplier. I didn't want to invest until I understood that I had money in the bank. I understood that principle, like you ready, fire, aim, right?
Yeah. So
So
how tell me about your first sale. How'd it close?
yeah, I closed immediately. I called the guy up on the phone, and
Yeah.
first guy I called, same thing with books. The first door I knocked on, I ended up selling books.
Yeah.
And the first guy I called up on the phone to become a client, it was this guy Howard. He was a partner at Gowlings, which is a big law firm,
Yeah.
and he's like a senior partner. And I called him, and I applied the principles from door-to-door selling, which translated really well to the phone. In fact, they actually gave me a significant advantage on the phone because when people pick up the phone, they're curious, but they're not like angry. They're like
Mm-hmm.
hello, and then you introduce, and then you say your line. They're like okay. They're kind of just like It's a little bit of suspicion, but when you're dealing with in door to door, there's more than suspicion. There's like actually some anger. Like you have a couple of seconds to just like distill a bomb,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or like disarm a bomb and shit. So disable a bomb. So um
Hold
that
on.
didn't exist.
Disable bomb? What'd you say?
Sorry?
What was
Yeah,
the
like
last thing
like
you said?
in door to door, there's more than just suspicion. There's anger. Like there is. There's an underlying anger. So there's like a bomb that's ticking the moment they come to the door.
Well, it's very invasive to have somebody in your
Sure.
space uninvited,
Sure.
right?
100%. And you're walking right into their life. Like there could be shit. I mean, I've walked in some situations like, okay, okay, that's wild, right?
Yeah.
Like we've had people in our team, because we're knocking each of like 25 to $40,000 doors a summer. We've had people that have walked in on murders. Like this shit just like happens. Like you just get such a profundity of different things that happen with random events, right? You just walk in
Mm-hmm.
on stuff. And with the phone, I just found success very early because it wasn't like that. I had already developed the system of how I do the sale, how I build interest, how I convert into that interest into let's say an appointment and then a transaction and a handoff of money. So I called the guy up. I remember the call really well. I'm like, yeah, and I did my thing, like my opener, and he goes, yeah. So how much do your suits cost? And I recognize the trap right away.
Mm-hmm.
In tactical sales, you might call that a hedgehog or a hot potato. You want to throw that back. So I said, what do you typically spend on a suit?
Mm-hmm.
And I was glad I knew that little tactic because he goes, I'd never buy a suit from a company that sells anything for less than 3 grand because I know they don't know what they're doing.
Interesting. Hey?
So which went the opposite of way of how you thought it would go, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's a good example of like a hot potato, like why you don't answer it, why you let them, tactically answer it first. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll bring some ideas. And of course I'm shaking because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And my suit started $3,000 for this meeting.
Yeah.
Um, and he bought, and I remember when I walked in, he looked at me, he's like, you're like a kid. Because he was like in the 60s, like senior partner, right? And he looked at me, he goes, you're a kid. Like, what the hell? Like he was shocked. He was almost like slightly offended that I booked him for a meeting because he was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And I remember, and I said, and again, I was prepared because I'd gone through all that. I said, Howard, would you rather deal with an old lazy tailor or a young hungry one?
Yeah. Great.
And in men, we like to see versions of ourselves in younger men. So he saw that and he bought. And I did like 40,000 in revenue my first day without a product, which was crazy.
In your first day of this
Yeah,
business, 40K
yeah,
revenue.
yeah,
Incredible, hey? So
yeah.
you
And
knew
there was
you slept very well that night, or maybe not at all.
no, I was mostly just like, I need to go somewhere and find a provider, a producer, because I had nobody to actually make the product.
Okay, so you sell 40K worth of product your first day, and you don't know where it's coming from.
No clue.
Okay, this is great. Please continue.
Give me a second. Penny, can you close my
Yeah,
door, please, Zucchini?
it's all good.
Just come close my door, please. I'm on a call. All right, my kids running around the back.
Yeah, it's good.
Close the door right now. Thank you, honey. Appreciate you. Bye. Anyways, he's like, you can talk, but you can't walk. Yes, because I'm in sweatpants. So yeah, I mean, I just needed I needed a supplier, And I just went online and started Googling where to get suits made, and I found something in Thailand. So I
Mhm.
flew to Thailand the next week.
Yeah, and I found in that area of the planet, it's really easy to get good relationships if you know where to look.
Well, unfortunately, not such good products. So that was a
Yeah, the quality of product can be super dicey.
very, especially since you're dealing with people like you're never in my business, you're never their first like high-end suit. Like nobody buys their first $5,000 suit from you. They buy from Brioni, they buy from Tom Ford, like they want to buy from a brand they know and trust.
Hmm.
And as their kind of like wealth builds, they're more curious to try different things and they can taste a little bit of that. So my product was instantly being compared with the best products on the market.
Mm. How did you compete with that, knowing that the product, like the material uh provision in that area of the planet, can be a bit dicey?
Well, the way I competed is I had a huge advantage is I didn't know it was shit.
Oh,
Right?
so
Like
you
so
just surfed ignorance through the sales?
yeah, I mean that lasted a good year and a half until I realized my clients weren't coming back and I'm like, something's up. And then I
Yeah,
met with some real tailors and they're like, we might want to work on your product a little bit there, champ.
that's cool. So like we're years down the road now. You've developed an entire individual product line with your own materials. Like, can you tell me more about what you're selling right now? Oh, bless you.
Well, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with selling a product. If your product is market ready when you're going to market, you're probably just over invested in a product nobody's going to buy.
What do you
That's
mean
the
if your
reality. Like the
product
market
is
tests your
market?
product, right?
What do you mean
So,
by that?
well, I mean, if like your product's not going to be a match to the market, no matter what your product does, the market decides what's good and what's not. So,
100%.
right, like entrepreneurs know that. People that are technical, they don't know. They know we have to make a better software. It's like, yes, but then your client's going to say that's actually not what we want, and then you've built something for nothing, right?
Hmm.
Um, Well, I just had to, I mean, I just learned as I went along. Like I learned about figurations and technical specs of garments, and it was a lot of technical knowledge to learn, but I'm a quick learner and I had a lot of exposure very quickly because I had nearly $1 million revenue. I think 980,000 in year one.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
incredible for selling suits. It's incredible.
Yeah. So I was an outlier in the selling side of things, and then the technical knowledge, and also at the time I knew nothing about actually scaling a company, so I was doing everything myself. I was used to working 80 hours a week, so I learned everything about production, about sourcing, about fitting and altering, and obviously all the logistics. Like I really knew everything to a level where like when I started finally hiring people way later than I should have, I could explain their job to them like and do their job for them like very, very deeply with a lot of knowledge because I had done it, right? I knew all the import export laws and like the B was it the B2 forms and Canadian customs. Like I knew everything there was to know about running a small suit company.
And so then you get granular on it. You start making your first hires. You start to get technical. You understand the business. And then what's really cool and really unique is you take a totally different road. You don't go and start a little tailor shop in your hometown. You start to expand. And do you want to give us a peek into that world? Because you took it
Right.
a cool direction.
Well, I had a big advantage. I sold encyclopedias door to door. The company had 3,000 salespeople a summer from all over the world, including Estonia, which is where how I met my wife through that company, right? And they're all on my Facebook. So I got like, 1,500 Facebook friends that I have credibility with because even if they don't know me personally super well, they know about my track record and they trust my competency because they know I was number one in that organization in sales.
Hmm.
And I had built the number one team in the company as well. So I had a large base of other salespeople I had developed. So they were getting older. They were turning 25, 26, going, hey, what am I going to do with my life next? And then
Oh,
there was
cool.
Dimitri,
So
right? And then there was
you
Dimitri on
raided you
Facebook.
raided the encyclopedia world for suits.
Oh, 100%. Well, they came to me. I mean, obviously, like people are like on my Facebook are in Bulgaria or in the US. Like, what are you doing? What is this thing? I'm like, I'm selling suits. And they're like, tell me about it. And I did, and they got interested. And so I started just like recruiting people that I'd sold books door to door with. And that's, yeah. And so we went Calgary, and then I think with that month six, I had somebody in Montreal. By month 12, I had somebody in Toronto. Like, I would fly down there, go to the field with them, teach them the phone, teach them how to sell. I would review all the orders for technical specs, measurements, and everything like that. So I just developed this incredibly keen eye for technically reading like a clothing chart. Like I was doing a suit for a movie. It was the actor was actually a really cool actor. He's a Swedish guy, very well known. He was oh, what's the guy's name? He plays the bad guy in like every movie. Hang on.
Like
I
a
gotta.
very Aryan looking dude.
He's Swedish. He's got like long hair. It's Peter Stormare.
Okay, cool.
Do you know who that is?
No, but I
If you Google him, you'll be like, oh, I know exactly who that is. Like you'll
okay,
just
right on.
immediately. So anyways, so I was doing a suit for Peter Stormare for a movie, and they gave me his measurements because usually in those kind of environments, you don't need to actually get measurements. And I looked at the measurements, the specs, and said, "No, this is wrong. Here's what it should be." And then the wardrobe person argued with me, and I'm like, "Listen," because I knew the producer of the movie, and I'm like, "No, no, this is wrong. Here's." And so I went to his house. I was in LA. I went to his house, measured him. I showed him the measurements. I said, "See, whoever measured him got these three things wrong, and I'll tell you why. Because proportional. Because I understand like the body from a chart, like inside out. Because again, I've processed like thousands, if not 10,000 orders, like individually
Hmm.
myself, because I had nobody else to do it for me, and I didn't know anybody in the industry, right?" Um, so I started recruiting my friends and I was just it was this very like Wolf of Wall Street. Like we rented a condo in downtown Toronto. We all lived in it. We all worked, we woke up there, we went to work there, we went to sleep there. I was already dating my girlfriend who became my wife. Like she was in, she would come down on the weekends and I would fly. I was in Montreal one day, then I go to Toronto, then I fly back.
Hey,
We
in
moved to Calgary.
hindsight, aren't those portions of our journey as entrepreneurs? They're so much fun, hey?
Yeah.
The grit and the startup.
It was a fun like vagabond kind of lifestyle, man. And we didn't have like a lot of tech to use. So we would just like we would spend like we get kicked out of airports. Like we go to YVR or YYZ or YYC in Calgary, and we would just go to the arrivals like and wait for the people like that came off the airplanes first in business class wearing like sport coats.
That's awesome.
And just be like, hey man, it's a cool sport coat. Where are you coming from? Oh, I'm coming from Toronto. I'm here for a meeting. Awesome. I'm actually a tailor. I just noticed your jacket. Can I have your card?
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so we'd go get a couple hundred cards and then get kicked out of the airport because eventually security's like, what the hell? These people don't leave. They're literally just here,
Yeah,
right?
that's
I've been
incredible.
kicked out
So
of every
total guerrilla warfare.
Yeah, been kicked out of every building in Toronto. Like I remember the BMO Tower, Commerce Court in Toronto. Like just security, like yeah, you guys got to go. Like you're just hanging out because we would just walk around the tunnels there, whatever, and like get approach people and get their cards or the plus 15s in Calgary, which is the tunnel system above ground there. So it was very, very like taking what we learned in encyclopedia sales, like and just and kind of just transposing that into suits, which is not a typical way to conduct yourself in a corporate environment.
It's not typical for suits. It's super aggressive and it's super grindy. It's
Yeah.
like I've never seen any other suit guy out there hitting the pavement like that. So you took door-to-door sales. You forced it into the suit industry basically, and you built a whole ground level brand for yourself. How did you end up expanding to other countries then? Like, did you just fly somewhere and decide?
No, it was very organic. So like one of my guys, so there was a girl that was really good friends with my girlfriend, my wife now, and she was actually Estonian, and she called in. She was like, we met a couple of times like over dinner with my wife and stuff, and she was like, hey, I'm finishing the book thing. I need to go work somewhere. I'm like, well, you're in Estonia. I'm like, I'd never been to Estonia at that point, or maybe I'd been once. I'm like, I don't know much about it, but let's just find a place in Europe and we'll move you there. So she's like, I want to live in Paris. I said, let's go. So she moved to Paris. We rented an apartment in Paris and literally hit the ground in Paris doing the same thing. That's how our office opened. It took about one day.
That's incredible. In
Like I got a
Paris,
ticket, I jumped on an airplane, and we sat down at like the apartment was crappy because it's Paris, it's tiny, and we're just sitting at a little table, like, okay, here's the sales talk. Let's practice, then we're gonna make some phone calls. And then we
that's
pick up
it.
the phone and they're like, oui, bonjour. And then we approach them in English because we didn't speak French.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, in Montreal, we can approach them in English. Maybe we can do it in Paris too. Um,
So your Paris office was your first expanded office.
well, it was the first time outside of Canada. It was Montreal, Toronto, and then Paris. Yeah.
That's very cool. And then finally, like you broke into the celebrity circles.
Hmm.
And what was your first? I assume just like everything else. Actually, maybe not. Was that organic or intentional?
Intentional.
Okay, cool. And so, what was your plan to do that?
Well, it kind of came down to like, we had started building like there was lots of many steps in between when I started the company in 2010 to now 2025 and we got into celebrities and we're actually in 2022, right?
Yeah,
Which blew up for us, which is awesome. But it was kind of like this. So there was one organic event that led me to making some suits for a movie with The Rock in it. It was Skyscraper in the summer of 2015. But that happened very sort of serendipitously and it wasn't like a very repeatable experience, but I got to a little taste of it. But mostly as we went through the steps of building a company. So, I scaled the company to like a pretty nice amount before it kind of crumbled down to about half of what it was, and I had to rebuild it because I didn't build it on systems. Very typical
Hold on.
experience.
That's
Yeah.
very interesting. You scaled up. So we talked about your first model. You scaled up with your grinding model and organic growth in Paris and London and Toronto, and then you collapsed. You
Yeah, so we were doing like 6 or 7 million in revenue, and I was leaving Canada, right? Because I decided I'm going to go and build this thing in Estonia, where there's just more preferential, entrepreneurial tax laws, let's say, for is one thing. So I had to like exit Canada, and when you exit Canada, you pay an exit tax. So
mhm,
a professional validator had to come and validate my company, right?
yes.
And I'm like, what was I? I was maybe 30 years old, 29, 30 years old. And he's looking at the numbers of the company and he's like, you have no layers of management. Like, I had no managers, nobody. You got nobody in production. It's like, nope. You got nobody in ordering. Nope. Like, you've got nobody doing payroll. Like, nope.
Hmm.
And yet you've got, 6, 7 million in revenue between like, 20 or 30 people out there selling the product. And there's absolutely nobody but you and salespeople. I'm like, exactly.
It's incredible.
So while that was extremely profitable,
Yeah.
it was unsustainable because I was doing every job on top of I was still seeing my clients. I just didn't know like like you're supposed to like hire somebody that can put collections together for you, hire somebody that handles logistics, especially since it's international, hire somebody that handles with IT, like we needed a
So
CRM and
did you
infrastructure.
was it was it the exiting with the whole all the tax stuff, or was it did you have a burnout? What ended up uh uh what causing that collapse, you think?
Well, so it wasn't so much, I mean, the burnout comes after because it's, how you feel about your job is oftentimes tied to the results of your job.
Yeah.
I find that burnouts don't happen when you're crushing.
Hmm.
My experience may be different from some others. And that was like, somebody is like in Ottawa and they're like, yeah, I'm going to do something else. It's like, great. I have nobody else in Ottawa. I have all these clients. Nobody can sell them. Or some salesperson like, you know, steps on something in an office and hurts their foot. And now they're like, oh, I want to sue the company because whatever. Like there was just all these like random events that start to spiral together, and you're just putting out fires all the time. And I'm sure you've done it. It's just fire, 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 fire. You're just living in that fourth quadrant. Everything is urgent and important
And
immediately.
this is where your lack of systems really starts to bite you,
Yes,
right? Because you don't have
and there's
any
nobody to.
management to absorb it.
Yeah, that's no management. So that's exactly right. There's nobody to fall back on. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I have like I remember. So we got audited, which is fine. Like in Canada, right? So we got audited, and I had the CRA auditor for like 4 hours. They were doing like the audit interview. And at the end of the interview, the auditor goes, dude, he's like, you really know your business. He's like, it's crazy. You were able to answer every question, expense, how you handle, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, thank you. But I walked away from like, fuck, he just told me, pardon my French. He's like, he just told me I need to actually like have a accounting team because I knew everything.
Yeah.
And my CPA, it was M&P was using the company time. He's like, dude, he's like, I had a clean audit, like nothing. He's like, that's wild. I'm like, I think I impressed the guy because like I knew about every single dollar in my company, but that's also because I'm literally doing every single dollar in my company myself. And that
So
was unsustainable.
you entered like really uniquely into the world of entrepreneurship, but then you also ran into like the classic entrepreneurial mistake of I am the octopus man who can do everything, right?
Mhm.
I did the same thing. Exact same.
Yeah, that was a hard experience. But and also there's other factors at the time. Like I'm like, I need more appointments. I had literally gone out and first hired a couple of call centers in the Philippines, eventually bought my agents out and we formed four of our own call centers.
So now you have suits and call centers.
Call centers to call people to sell suits.
Incredible. So you're
We were
effectively
doing
taking this high.
30,000 contacts, so 300,000 dollars a month.
It's incredible.
And they were calling 24/7. Like we had a time, our number one office at the time was in Perth, Australia,
Okay.
which from a time pers like, and that was also random and weird. Like, how did I get up into Perth? It was a guy on my team who was Estonian but selling in Toronto because we're like, we don't have a market in Estonia. I'm like, I'm going to train you in Toronto. We can't train you in Paris because the girl there is like just starting out herself. So he came to Toronto to live for a year to learn the business, and his goal was to go to Perth. So then we went to Perth, figure out a way to to open a company there. And then that guy, it turned out that he met some ice cream sellers in Perth because a lot of Estonians go to Perth and like to Australia to like sell ice cream. It's like a weird thing. And they're like, "Oh, we want to do this." So then we ended up with like 8 people in Perth, and I had never been there in my life, right? And
Crazy.
someone calls it like midnight doing training with him, like how to say the script, and he's dropping. And then one of the girls I had in Estonia that came to us to work, I'm like, why don't you go work in Perth and learn there? She's like, okay. So I ended up with a huge office in Perth. And then my guy from, and so now I have a team in Philippines calling Perth, which is the same time zone for them. And then one of my guys in Toronto meets a girl from Hong Kong, goes off and marries her. So now he's like, I want to keep working here, but I'm going to move to Hong Kong. I was like, okay, let's start a company in Hong Kong. And so
That's
we
cool.
end up with Perth and Hong Kong, and like we just literally organically just ended up in like Belgium and like just like random places, like because we had people that were living their lives. And you can take this business anywhere.
Well, it's a very successful combination of and unique of you've taken the suit sales and combined it with these high, if you don't mind me saying, this higher pressure, more invasive sales tactics, right? And
Yeah.
it's incredible the results over how long have you been running it now?
15 years.
Yeah, it's amazing. So in the last 15 years, you've seen some crazy growth. You've talked about some pretty crazy system collapse too. And then finally, like what I find exciting too is now that you've broken in to some of these celebrity circles. So here you are.
Yeah.
I feel like when I'm talking to you, like your goal is the top of the market. So it makes sense that you've arrived here.
Yes.
How did it feel to finally break into these circles? You don't seem like somebody who gets starstruck too often, but I don't know. Tell me some stories. What's your life been like now that you're like everybody knows about the suits of Jordan Peterson, right? Like
Yeah.
they're world renowned, and you are the man that makes these suits. And so, if you could
Yeah.
just share a little bit about that experience, that'd be awesome.
So as I'm rebuilding the company, right? Number one, I knew I needed a president that knew more than I did about the industry. So I actually ended up recruiting a guy who was senior VP for the largest custom suit manufacturer in the world for 23 years out of New York. Got in contact with him. We had a mutual friend, flew him out to Estonia. He's in the States, showed him the vision of what we're building. At that point, I'd built an incredible IT infrastructure because to run a call center that's 300,000 dials a month, you need phone numbers, leads, and ways to leverage those calls into sales transactions. So we built an incredible. I did an MIS degree at UBC, so like computer science and computers and technology are very native to me. So we built an insane CRM that is able to create and leads for us and get data. So that thing is probably worth more than our suit company, but I'm so focused on the suit company that we use it as an engine to run our thing. Because, we have leads in every city in the world, and I'm talking in the millions, or hundreds of thousands, depending on the city size. And I can show that to you off camera. But anyway, so I recruited this guy who was like, he saw the vision in our company, and he's like, I'm gonna work with you. He's like, under one condition, I'm gonna buy 5% of your company. So he came back 48 hours on the second day of his interview with me. He was in Estonia. He came back with a check, and he's like, I have a check here. It's a six-figure check. If you sell me 5% of your company, I'll come work for you. That was his
And
deal. I'm like,
Dimitri,
okay,
with that is usually the right guy, somebody who wants
yes.
to be bought in. Yeah,
100%. I was like, that's incredible. He wrote me a six-figure check. Like, talk about trust, right? And I just
yeah.
met this guy 2 days earlier, but he was here for 3 days. We were, having cigars and talking about the future and the vision of the business. Anyways, so I had that covered, and then I needed like I found a great IT guy to Ukraine, like he was doing some project sort of contracting for us, and I told him the vision of the CRM I needed to build the telephony systems to be able to call anywhere because I have guys in the Philippines that are rotating shifts 24 hours a day. They're calling Canada, they're calling Hong Kong, they're calling Australia, they're calling Europe. Like there's just constantly we needed like to build that up, so we built that up. And so I kind of had a list of things now that I needed to do in order to compensate for what I had been previously compensating, which is like everything can be solved with sales, but now not everything can be solved with sales because now it
Hmm.
gets crazy. And one of the things was brand. Like I never needed a brand to be able to sell our suits because I knew the right thing to say and the right thing not to say, and I knew how to conduct sales, right? But the people I was hiring, I'm like, boy, would it be useful for them, like as they're launching their careers. They're not because after a few years, the book thing dried up, and we're recruiting just like cold new salespeople. And now you have to teach them how to sit in a in an office with a partner at Deloitte and close them on a $3,000 jacket, and it's like now you have to do a little bit more than just tell them to go do it. You have to develop them. So
Yeah.
brand would have helped a lot. So I told my president and Jason, who's still with us, and one of the great things about Jason was he took like 60% of my job off my hands because I was dealing with all the salespeople stuff. Like they're calling me, oh, this is going on, this is going on. And it's not just work, it's life. When you're developing people, there's a lot of life stuff. It was just eating so much time. I was just on calls 12 hours a day nonstop. So Jason came in and took that part off of me. So I had some more creative freedom. Mama Khan, who's my CFO and COO, was a salesperson. He's like, hey, he explained to me, like, we need somebody to like actually like send the seasonal collections, put together folders, deal with logistics, deal with just like deal with the day-to-day operations in the company. Um,
put those layers in that we were
yeah.
talking about before.
Yeah, I had Kirsty as a CFO and she was amazing, built all our financial systems. We were filing taxes in Hong Kong, Australia, Canada, um, and like multiple European jurisdictions. And so you're dealing with all sorts of stuff. Like there was so much that we were doing ourselves that we had to figure out. And Kirsty came in, she's like, we need to systemize this. So like, she hired an accounting team. Vlad, my IT guys, hired three or four, I think four developers full time with us. So we have IT. So like we actually have functions in the company that things work without my presence. So I had that freedom on it. And it was 2022. We were sitting in Kiev. We had our company meeting. Every year we have two meetings with a company, but we go somewhere because we have, at the time we had a Kiev office. We had 56 people there.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it was our whole customer support center and order uploading and some salespeople there in Ukraine. 2 weeks before the war broke out, I'm like literally sitting with Jason for breakfast, and it was at the Hotel Opera, which I love that hotel in Kiev. And I think it's avoided being bombed, which is good because the other hotel I stayed at did get hit, suckily. Anyways, they have this amazing eggs Benedict with caviar on top. It's like Ukraine was just a gem before all this stuff went down. Ukraine was an amazing place to travel. Anyways, and I said, I need to like one of the things I can do to really help our salespeople, like especially the new ones we bring in, and also to recruit more salespeople, is to have a brand and to have a brand that's all by association. Like brand, a lot of brand is just like how interesting you are. A lot of how interesting you are is just who you know, who are your friends,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that's a big part
100%.
of being interesting,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
So we needed some guild by association. So I told Jason, I'm like, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna start doing what I do now. And I've done it at the highest level with, partners at law firms and consulting firms and people that are top in their field in every other industry. Why wouldn't I be able
Actually,
to do it for
Dimitri,
entertainment?
let's go back to that cool because you made a cool point. Brand by association. Let's throw broad metrics on this. I would say it's like 95% but the people that the brand is associated. How do you feel about that statement?
100% true. And
Okay,
people
cool.
that disagree with that, they are wrong. And I'll say why they're wrong. They say, oh no, it's like product quality. It's like, yes, but product quality
Yeah,
is
I think that's
commoditized.
5%. I think the five
Yeah.
percent is
Yeah.
will it survive me actually physically using it? That's it.
Right. Yeah. Product quality, there's so much, like it's so much easier to be technically good than it is to be cool.
Yeah, 100% it is.
Like I'll tell you a funny story. So I got to know Alice Cooper and his manager Shep Gordon, right? And Shep is a legend. He's got a movie called Supermensch, and so in the movie it's like Sylvester Stallone and Gene Simmons and Steven Tyler and Alice Cooper and all these guys. He used to date and live with Sharon Stone. He took Raquel Welch to the Oscars. Like this guy's a legend in entertainment, right?
Absolutely.
And one of his very best friends is Jeff Bezos. So when I was at the house in Hawaii with Shep and he had Alice Cooper there and they were having dinner, it was Jeff Bezos, Alice Cooper, and Steven Tyler.
Oh, wow.
And Leonardo DiCaprio and Jessica Alba.
Okay.
What a room,
Yeah.
right? And it was so funny because Bezos had just flown in from with DiCaprio had just flown in from Switzerland to Hawaii to have dinner.
It's a
Climate
a
climate
different
action.
dimension, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I asked Shep, I'm like, why is like Jeff so fascinated? Because Jeff is always at the house there. They're always like eating and chilling. It's like, I'm like, how come this guy, like, years after, because Shep's been famous way since the 60s, right? Like his best friend is Michael Douglas. This guy's got stories. His book is fantastic. And I'm like, how did Bezos hook up with you and why is he always here? And he's like, Dimitri, he wants to be cool. That's what he said.
Yeah. There you
He
go.
goes, he's like, Jeff is technically brilliant, like has an incredible eye for detail, process orientation, everything is amazing. He goes, but he's never been cool, you
Yeah,
know?
that cool, hey, that like that social panache, the it factor, right? And so that's what
So
you
look at,
hit with the brand.
well, look at Musk. Like a big part of what Musk is doing now, he just wants to be a cool kid, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, how do we make our brand cool? We can't just say we're cool. I'm like, well, why not I just do what I've always done and I'll sell my way into it. So I started, um, I have a buddy, Clarence. He's up in Toronto, and he's like really good at like crafting like emails. And I gave him a list of celebrities we should hunt and kind of how we should do it. And he like fervently started writing letters and making calls, and I was starting to network and ask all these things. And our first one was Lennox Lewis, the boxer,
Yeah, that's amazing.
and he's just up in Brampton. He's an awesome, love Lennox. He's just like such a cool guy. And Lennox's wife or Lennox replied was like, "Hey, this is interesting. What do you guys have in mind?" It's like, "Yeah, we just want to make you some suits." And then Lennox, we put that up on our website, and then our second one was Alice Cooper. So we made a quick jump.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yep, Alice's manager replied. He's like, "Yeah, let's saw some of your stuff on Linux. He thinks it's really cool."
Hmm.
And so Alice Cooper was like, we went from nothing within 6 months, Lennox Lewis, and then like 3 months later, Alice Cooper.
Well, it should be said too, like your product, like I love your product. It's definitely motivation for me to speak to you as well. I like what you do. Um, you sell really cool suits though. Like you give people a bit of an experience. Like you have somebody show up, you all the different materials. Like you're not selling the that one suit fits all for every occasion. You do very
No.
unique pieces.
Well, we also, as our product developed, this was about our third year in the business. A company and I kind of mutually found each other. It's a small company out of the UK, and they had been supplying Savile Row for like 30 years. In fact, Gives and Hawkes is one of their biggest clients, and Gives and Hawkes is like the tailors to the king and stuff, right?
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah, yeah. So this was, at the time, Gives and Hawkes was British owned. They're now owned by a Chinese company, but at the time, Gives and Hawkes was Gives and Hawkes. I mean, this is like at the highest level possible. And these guys had never sold outside of England, and I was looking for a very high-end product, and they told me like this won't work. I said, why? He goes, because you're selling in Canada and stuff. And he's like, most of the business there is like Hong Kong tailors selling cheap products, and you're going right to the top of the chain. I said, I want to sell expensive suits the same way they sell cheap suits. And he goes,
Hmm.
it won't work. People are going to buy Brioni. People are going to buy Canali and Keton. I said, no, I can sell. So they gave me a provisional contract. I had to do 30,000 revenue in a month. That was like in production. I mean, we crushed that in like a couple of weeks. They're like, okay, you guys are the real deal. And so we ended up partnering with them. So our product went from like, what the hell are we doing? But we knew we needed to upgrade. By second, it was 2.5 years in. We had a product that was insane. Like literally, um, these guys supply like all the top brands. I'm not going to name them, but like very top brands. The Canali actually used their pattern software for years. So they had a lot of market credit. And I ended up buying out 20% of that company about 4 or 5 years ago during the pandemic. I bought out because they needed revenue during the pandemic because they
Hmm.
didn't have retailers. Retailers were canceling orders.
Hmm.
And so I came and I said, I have cash. Like, let me buy. So we're an owner of them now, right?
Yeah.
So we have an incredible product. Like really, really technically, like the guy Edward that runs it is like a technical genius. The pattern software behind it. It's I have a video I put out. It's about a 1 hour documentary, and it's called The Suit Maker. It's episode 4, where we're actually at the factory and we show how it's like a laser projector on the fabric that then cuts the fabric, and it's all like it's crazy. Like the
That's awesome.
technology behind it's insane. So I trusted my product. I had no issue with like I knew that, and I have videos, of Alice Cooper like talking about, and it's on our, all over our socials. Like Alice
Yeah.
Cooper saying, "This is the best suit I've ever owned." He's like, "I'm 74 at the time." He's like, "I've never had a suit like this."
Yeah,
I
it's
have
incredible.
the same video, obviously with Jordan, with Piers Morgan, with Ozzy Osbourne became a client like that. Backstreet Boys, Metallica, like a lot of very high end celebrities. The product I trusted 100%. I mean, I really get behind it because I know the product, right? But getting to those guys was super cool. And I mean, Alice just came along, and just kind of appeared, and that was pretty cool because I'm a huge I love Alice Cooper. I think he's awesome, and he's also like just the perfect celebrity for like a suit company.
Yeah, he looks great in a suit too, which helps, right?
And he's artistic, he's creative, he's lovable. I was just shocked like nobody else picked him up. That was crazy, right? Like, okay, so we got Alice, and then around the time I got Alice, it was I'd been watching Jordan Peterson online since about 2016, like really just his lectures. I loved his lectures. This was before he got into the sort of now it's a lot of religious stuff and a lot of like sort of it's not just conducting your life, it's how we should build society. At the time, a lot of it was just like psychology lectures online.
Yeah.
Just loved them. Just loved them. And then circa 16, he started getting a little bit of notoriety in Canada with C16 and like all this stuff politically that
Hmm.
was happening. And I completely agreed with everything he was saying. Having lived an experience that he was describing under communism, and loved the lectures. I'm a huge psychology. Like I have a massive bookshelf, probably about 400 books in my living room, psychology. Like I've always, that's sales, right? Like that's what I'm into, is like understanding people and reading people and understanding why people do what they do and stuff. And I love Peterson. I said, I'm gonna make this guy his suits. Like that was a mission for me.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I love the suits you've produced for him too. They're beautiful. So you've evolved now from door to door encyclopedias, developing this whole business, getting granular and building an international footprint, selling suits with a totally unique curve, and it's given you a lot of success. So now I assume you're getting granular on basically international business practice. Like, is your world what's the next step for you? Is it mergers, acquisitions? Are you looking at being the number one brand on the planet now and finding the roadmap to that, or how do you feel?
I'm working on the strategy for that because obviously, yes, acquisition is very interesting because we can take a business and then blow it up very quickly with our systems, our tech, our sales practices, etc. So yes, that's definitely one route we're pursuing right now. And then, our business, it's interesting. There's not a lot of players that do what we do, i.e., not a lot of players that pick up the phone and go to sell suits to people, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of it is about hiring and growth. So just very geometric type of growth. I wish I could go exponential, but we're not a software company. Like we have to actually see our clients.
Yes.
So that'll be huge. And I do have some obviously, goals in terms of revenue for the company that I'd like to do before I look. Because a lot of times when you're in entrepreneurship, this week talking to people are like, oh, you should do this, you should do that, you can do that. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing any of that until I hit my goal with our company revenue.
Yeah.
Because I want to say I did it. Like I built a brand that's not just top 1%, but at the height and fame of the echelon of height and fame that just like two or three other companies in our industry have ever achieved. And we did it very differently. We did it without retail. We literally did it direct. And that's an interesting play for me.
Are you a lifer, or do you have an end goal for this business?
Probably a lifer.
Yeah, cool. That's really cool.
I'm just really enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, if anybody needed to get a hold of you and they want to buy a suit, what's the best way forward?
LGFG.com. Look good, feel good. LGFG.com.
That's amazing. Well, Dimitri, I want to thank you for all your time today, and I'll connect with you actually just off camera here. I'll give you a quick shout. But yeah, man, is there anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
I got nothing, man.
Okay,
Empty.
if you get some new evolutions in the future, we'll do another one.